let's shift our attention a little bit to the offensive side of the ball and the receivers. We expect a little bit more shotgun, a little bit more three, maybe even some four wide receiver sets. Who do you think could thrive for the Browns, receiver, ball catcher, if you will, in that type of offense?
Well, they're going to be an 11 personnel heavy team, which is very different from what they've been. And what I mean by 11 personnel is it's a way of describing who's on the field, right? So the system has been formulated that you have a very finite number of skill players, always equals five in total, right? So if we say 11 personnel, that's one running back, that's one tight end, that's three wide receivers, right? Because if you take the five linemen and the one quarterback, everything has to equal out to 11. It's just a shortened way of describing how many of those positions are on the field. So if it's 12 personnel, one running back, two tight ends, two wide receivers, right? So on and so forth. When Kevin arrived coming from Minnesota, he was a very 13 personnel heavy coach. He liked to use that. That means one running back and three tight ends. Think back to when he first got here. In the second year he was here, 2021, a lot of tight ends on the field. They would do that to manipulate heavier personnel groupings from the defense, which is linebackers on the field, more of those, more defensive linemen. And a good justification Kevin had for that was like, we know that teams don't have great pressure packages when they're in base looks versus dime, DB heavy looks, where you can get super creative and put some funky pressure packages in place, and it's harder for the offense to handle. They have worked away from that. They've worked into a very heavy 11 personnel team. I think they're going to be top five, upwards of 75% in that. I don't think they'll dip into four wide receiver territory unless David gets hurt. So knock on wood on that, because I think they want him on the field all the time. So you're talking about Ford or whatever running back, and Njoku, and then your three wide receivers. So if you're looking at this, I mean, who's going to thrive? I mean, you got to continue to use David in the ways they did last year. I think they will. And I think when Deshaun was in that Baltimore game, when he played really well in the second half, it started to click for him how to find David, navigate him, let him work after the catch. I do think that an improved and actually threatening slot player for them, and I expect Jerry Jeudy to be in there a lot as that sort of bigger bodied slot player, is going to be a guy that gets the football a decent amount. They'll still find Amari a lot, and Amari's expectation is to have an 80 catch, 1,000 yard season again, 2 straight years of that, right? I think that's in place, but I continue to think the top three names should have, if the Browns are going where they think they're going, should have good seasons, right? You would like Amari to be like an 1,100 yard receiver, Jerry Jeudy to be pushing that 1,000 yard threshold, and then David to be like an 750 to 800 yard guy. That's what they need in the modern game, and I think they will. And Elijah Moore will sprinkle in and play a lot of outside snaps and provide some speed and vertical route tree stuff that he can do a pretty good job of. And then Cedric Tillman, when they want to put Jeudy outside, they'll probably bring Cedric Tillman into the slot and move him around. They just have some versatile pieces in that group, and obviously David can get down the field vertically against safeties and challenge them, and he can also really put high levels of stress on the underneath portions of the game, because they figured out last year, like, hey, let's get 85 the football in the shallow portions of the field and let him be this unique, gigantic human being in space that DBs just cannot get to the ground, and he can run away from linebackers. You led all tight ends last year in yards after catch, and it doesn't take much to figure out how they unlock that. So I think they're going to try to continue to unlock that in unique ways this year.